Hello, classmates. I hope the end of your semester is going well. Today, I hope to share with you the findings of my interview with a professional in my relative field. I am a cross-media graphics management major, which has a very wide array of options in terms of the field of work I would be going into. And so, the different kinds of writing communication in these fields is also a very wide array of options. Today, however, we will be looking more specifically at writing communication in the graphic and web design workplace. This turned out to be a really interesting interview, not only because I got to learn a bit about the workflow of a business operating in the industry, but because I got to learn what my uncle really does on a day-to-day basis for a living. Eric Nicholas Sweeney, or as I know him, Uncle Nick, is a professional in the graphics and web design industry and has been working in it for over 15 years. He's also the owner of his own design business, Big Fat Designs. I will link his website in the description of this video for anyone interested in seeing his professional website. One thing I found really interesting about Nick's communicative workflow is that most of it is done through two main sources, telephone and email. Email was to be expected, but I typically wouldn't expect phone calls to be as common as Nick said they were, a whopping 30 to 40% of his daily, more general communication. Granted, this isn't writing I'm talking about right now, but just his daily workflow of communication. In writing alone, Nick does more than 60% of his writing communication through email, followed up shortly by a much smaller margin of online messaging boards, holding 5 to 10% of his writing communication. A quarter of his writing is done in a more non-traditional sense under the popular form of casual conversation in this day and age, texting. Email is an interesting concept. Ever since I got a cell phone, I never understood how or why businesses and people still use email for communication. Texting is so much faster, right? Well, this interview taught me otherwise. This leads me to a really important quote that you, my classmates, should try to take away from this presentation. Communication is political. Email is not just used for asking questions, congratulations, and greetings. It's also used to make warnings, polite and professional notices or reminders. Communication can lead to a lot of he said, she said conversations. In some instances, Nick even told me he's had people sign contracts and then refuse him pay. Without record of what people have said, promised, or mentioned in the past, things can get messy fast. This is one of the things that makes email so massively useful for keeping track and keeping things personal. Texting is so fast and so instant, sometimes it's hard to catch yourself acting on emotion. Email has a more formal vibe to it. We may feel more inclined to wait to send an email rather than just shooting something off that we shouldn't have said or didn't mean to say. I feel this is an extremely important thing to mention when discussing why email is so useful, especially when discussing it with people my age who have grown up in a time of instant everything. Online message boards are also extremely useful for Nick's everyday work. Nick is only one guy, so when taken up on big jobs for big companies, he needs to find people to work with. Sometimes this could mean someone across the state or even across the country, maybe even in a different time zone. Online message boards allow Nick to organize to-do lists and keep track of what team members were supposed to accomplish what and when, as well as work tickets for getting paid at the end of the day. When things are on the go and quick, Nick turns to the wonders of texting and instant messaging. Oftentimes, if he is doing work for a personal contact, Nick might communicate on a more personal level with him. This is not a form of writing communication he would use with a larger company, but perhaps with a client around town who he has known for quite some time, or has done work for in the past. Finally, we come to the last slide of my presentation. This was the hardest slide to make because I couldn't figure out how to put this thought into words with such a small space given on our infographic. As creators working in a creative field, communication is a valuable channel for aspiring entrepreneurs to connect and establish their ideas in a graphical format for us to construct for them. What I mean here is that, in a way, depending on the work we're doing, we are helping people create their dreams in a graphics-based industry. Not everyone has access to the tools necessary to create professional-looking products or websites, but we do, and we can help them create that product they have in their mind. Think of it this way. Have you ever had a piece of art in your mind, a drawing or a painting that you can see in your head, but just can't create for yourself on a canvas or on a drawing pad? Well, hey, tell us what's in your head, and we will, to the best of our ability, help you create that wonderful piece of art. This is why communication, writing especially, is so important in the graphic and web design industry. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful week.